Let's do this thing.
Imperial Lounge presents an icon.
Reggae dancehall by the beach. To be held at Imperial Lounge, 2 to 14 High Street, Margate Seafront, Kent, CT9 180. To be held on the first Saturday of each month. Your host DJ Matt. Also rotating DJs, Roddy Boone, DJ Happy,
and Younger General.
Doors open 8 p.m. till late. Free entry all night. Music policy, reggae, dancehall, and a touch of soul. On the first Saturday of each month. Reggae dancehall by the beach. At the Imperial Lounge Margate. Do remember you can also get VIP and shisha booking. More info on the World Jam Global website. That's www.worldjamglobal.com. Also www.imperialloungemargate.co.uk.
See you there.
Sorry, just stay there. I'll be back in a minute.
Do you have an old sound tape or your favorite cassette tape that you want converted to CD or MP3 format? Do you need a demo CD, radio ad, a DJ, or even a sound system for your wedding, birthday, or special occasion? Then why not get in contact with KTR Records on 07931 152 448 or check out our website on www.ktrrecords.com. We have been in business since 2004 and also undertake community projects. So for your remixes, doublets and all your sound editing needs, why not contact KTR Records, official sponsor of World Jam Global Radio. KTR Records, coming your way.
Sunday, May 27, 2018, GDS Entertainment proudly presents
Grooving on the Hudson.
That's right, Grooving on the Hudson. Memorial Weekend celebration. Music played by Road International. Selector Oxtail alongside King Shiloh International. All aboard the elegant Paddle Wheel Queens, One World's Fair Marina. Boarding 6 p.m. sharp from Flushing Queens Certified Shea Stadium. And Miss Marina will be selling 7 p.m. sharp. Also,
for tickets, People's Choice Furniture, Bronx, New York. Doors Restaurant, Queens, New York. G's Restaurant, Queens, New York.
Also,
WorldJamGlobal.com.
Also, complimentary dinner prize and surprises.
Come party with us.
Let's just take it slow. Sailing on a summer breeze.
Don't worry, I'm going to be with you all in a short while.
I already did my time. I paid for my crime.
Just kind of getting ready.
I already did my time. I paid for my crime. I already did my time. I paid for my crime. I already did my time. I paid for my crime. I already did my time. I paid for my crime. In the day, I didn't really care about the system. It was all about survival. It was do or die. I had too many rivals. I was too young and foolish to stay in school. I learned my lessons in the street. There was not a man I couldn't beat. I was good with my hands and very quick on my feet. I was swimming in women. I had girls all over the street. I was getting money. Life was so sweet. Now things have changed. The whole game has been rearranged. I'm a change.
Well, it's Saturday. It's 6 o'clock. You're on World Jam Global Radio with another edition of Issues Today. And have we got a story lined up for you? My guest today will be Elisa Rodriguez.
I paid for my crime.
And we're talking about justice for Mark Carrasco. Share with me.
In my time, I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. I was a drug dealer, sold more drugs than Superfly, but I never got high on my own supply. I'm not proud of what I had to do. That's why I'm telling my story to you and you. I had to repent, I must admit, I was doing all kind of stupid shit. Now sit back and think it over since I've gotten older. The life I used to live, I wouldn't do it again. I was young and dumb, my brain was so numb. I was a real Forrest Gump, but I was nobody's chump. Me and Billy the Kid had a lot in common. I was the real Terminator, much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Today we're going to be talking about a young man, like a 26-year-old man, cut down in his prime.
The opening statements are going on right now.
Killed by cops in San Diego.
In prison.
Mark Carrasco's life mattered, and today we are talking with his mother, Elisa Rodriguez.
Already did my time.
And we're going to be looking around the facts, the issues, and the life of Mark Carrasco. Stay with me.
Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time.
Takes me about 10 minutes to share it to about 30 different groups. So please, if you're logged in, if you're tuning in and you're receiving the stream,
like an ordinary citizen,
share this.
This is my message to
with every friend and every group and every organization related to police brutality.
There was not a
Black Lives Matter.
I was
killed by cops, unlawful killing, wrongful convictions,
men and women. I had girls all
or any other group that you are associated with.
So sweet.
In just a few minutes, we will be talking live in San Diego.
Man, don't need no gun in my hand. It ain't about
to Elisa Rodriguez.
It's too short to spin it.
Hang tight.
Trying to cope with this living hell. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime.
Last week we heard the story of the wrongful conviction of Michael O'Brien.
More drugs than Superfly, but I never got high on my own supply.
Next week you have my guest Latara Smith.
That's why I'm telling my story to you and you. I had to repent. I must admit, I was doing all kind of stupid shit. Now sit back and think it over since I've gotten older. The life I used to live, I wouldn't do it again.
So we are live in the United States of America with the mother of Mark Carrasco.
A lot in common. I was the real Terminator, much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Just less than a couple of minutes time. Get yourself ready. Live on World Jam Global Radio. My name is Kervin Julien. Program is Issues Today.
My time. Already did my time.
And you can find us here live every Saturday between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. GMT or BST.
He could be facing life in prison.
Check your local time zones.
Wow. Trying to cope with this living hell.
And we are going live across the world.
Cope with this living hell. Yes, I am. Trying to cope with this living hell. This living hell. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
As the show goes on live, you can ask questions. Just put your comments in the comments on the stream page. Get us live on www.worldjamglobalradio.com. Or you can get us live on Facebook Live, either on my page, World Jam Global Radio #1 page, or the Issues Today live stream page.
He who was out sin.
Don't forget, you can also catch me tomorrow morning for my Wake Up Everybody Sunday Gospel Show. That's my gospel show that goes out live every Sunday morning.
Have the right to vote and live like an ordinary citizen again. This is my message to all of my friends in the pen, statewide, worldwide. And put down those knives. Stop stabbing each other. Yeah.
We're going live very shortly. Waiting in the wings, the mother of Mark Carrasco, Elisa Rodriguez, very shortly. So I'd just like to make a quick introduction, and maybe you could start off, Elisa Rodriguez, by just telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you are, and how long you've been on this planet for. Maybe that would be a start. How are we, Elisa? Good evening.
Oh, good evening. How are you doing?
We're fine, and I believe it's actually good morning in where you are. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Well, it's 6 o'clock in the evening here in the UK, 10 o'clock in the morning where you are, and we're glad that we've actually got you live right here on World Jam Global Radio to talk about your beloved son who was sadly taken away from you. But if you could introduce yourself to our audience who are not familiar with you or who you are, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, well, my name is Elisa Rodriguez. I am 56 years old, and I lived in California my whole entire life. I'm a California native, single mom.
Yeah, that's about it. Well, a single mom, when you say that, that's
and
about
a grandmother
it.
too.
And a grandmother too. A single mom is a very difficult job in this day and age. And you're a single mom and a mother to how many, Elisa?
I just had one son, Mark.
You just had the one son.
Yes, I just had
And
the
you
one
say that
son.
you're a grandmother, so that means that before Mark passed, he gave you a grandchild.
He gave me two beautiful daughters,
Wow.
Jasmine, who is 15, and Isabel, who is 10. And Isabel is like my son with pigtails.
Okay. So before we do talk about, before we bring everybody up to date with what actually happened, let's talk a little bit about your son, Mark. You say that you're a single mom. Have you always been a single mom, or did?
Yes, always.
Okay, so you brought up Mark on your own from the get-go. What was he like as a child growing up? Was he troublesome, mischievous? Was he fun?
Oh no, he was a good little kid. Just playing. He liked to play. He wasn't bad at all. He had his little moments when he would have his little fits, but I didn't really have any problems with him growing up. I mean, he was a really friendly kid. There was almost like 300 people at his funeral. So he was well loved. he was a really awesome kid.
That kind of speaks volume. If I can have 10 or 20 at mine, I think I'll be happy. So growing up, he was a reasonable child, nothing out of the ordinary. What was he like as he started stepping into school, Elisa?
Okay, well, when he, like every teenager, once they go into junior high school, they turn into someone completely different. They no longer want to hold your hands. They no longer want to, want you to be all up on them. But he was good, he wasn't perfect, but he was, he made sure, because I made sure to let him know that, when he's in school, you need to be in school. You're there to educate yourself. You're not there to make friends. And, he kind of got it. He was really good in school too. He was great in math. Me, I don't have any idea about math, but he was a really good student.
Did he graduate from school with any marks or anyway?
Oh yeah, well, he graduated from high school with a 3.8 grade average, and he was one of those that always had to be on the go. He couldn't just sit around and do anything. So he once he graduated from high school, he was already expecting his first baby when he was in high school. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. But he'd always make sure that he had a job. So he started out as a medical assistant, and then he spoke to his uncle, and his uncle was an electrician, so he got him into that. And that's where math comes in play, because I guess you need to be really good in math in order to be an electrician. So
yeah, that's true.
It all worked out.
Was he athletic? Was he sports minded at all?
Oh yeah, he liked to play basketball with his friends and football. And he was like your diehard Charger fan. Every Sunday, we had to watch a Charger game while they were still in San Diego.
And at that point, going through his teens and his early 20s, Did he find himself getting into any trouble with police, for example? Was he known to the
No,
police?
not at all. He wasn't like a gang member. He didn't really, because like when he was little, like we moved around. Like we moved out of my parents' house, and then from there we went to like San Isidro. From then after there we went to like East San Diego, then Linda Vista, Terrasana, all these places. So he was never really into gangs, which is I thank God for that. Yeah, I didn't have to worry about that. And no, he wasn't. He wasn't really like a troublemaker. The only time that he ever got arrested was when he was working in Long Beach, and he was being a tad bit obnoxious, I guess. And they took him in, but his bail was only like $200, which But he was never a troublemaker at all.
Did he have a drug or alcohol habit at all that caused any problems for you or your family?
No, not really. I mean, he did smoke a lot of marijuana, but that was about it. But like it never interfered like with his job. He would always go to work all the time. Even if he was drinking with his friends till like 4 o'clock in the morning, he knew that at 6 o'clock he'd be out the door and went to work. That's one thing about him. He would get mad at me when I would call in sick. But he was.
So and did right up until the point of this particular time where he lost his life, was he working right up until that time?
Yes, he was. He was like I said, he was an electrician, and the job that he had, like they would send him like to different places, like Anaheim, San Francisco, Sacramento, and he loved it. He liked to work.
You see, before we start talking about what happened on that fateful day or night, these are the things that alarm me when I hear these stories, because one of the headlines, for example, was officers cleared in shooting of knife-wielding man. And this is why I wanted you to talk about Mark growing up, what he did, what he was like, what sort of person was he, what was his personality like, what was his character like. Because if I am unknown to you and your family, and totally unfamiliar with Mark and the case, when I read that headline, officers cleared in shooting of knife-wielding man, my perception is of a possible drug-crazed, criminally active individual who has a long-standing relationship with police, who is well known for violence and maybe gang-related type behavior, and possibly may have brought about his own death because of his reputation or behavior. But the person that you're explaining to me, the person that you're describing to us right here live on air, right, is a hard-working individual who grew up in a family environment, who worked right up until he lost his life. So before we start talking about that, let me first ask you this question, Elisa. What was Mark actually doing at his auntie's house that night? Was that where he was staying? Was he living? Was he just passing through? What was happening that night?
No, actually, it happened at our home. He was at our house right here in Claremont, and my sister, for some reason, she didn't like my son. I don't know. If it's because she couldn't have children and she was jealous. I really have no idea. But that day, I remember I had to go to Tijuana to pick up his daughter because his daughter was with his mom in Ensenada. So when I left, he had taken his youngest to Balboa Park, took her to the carousel, and everything was fine. I mean, he was here with his friends and his daughter, and then I just, took off thinking that when I got back, he was still going to be here. So.
Okay,
so. I mean, it was.
So, he's in his own home.
Mm-hmm. He was in bed already.
The home that he shared with you, his mother. So, What was your sister doing at your home? Was she visiting? Is that where she also lived?
No, she lived here too. Because like when my parents passed, they left us like the house for both of us.
Okay, so you
she
both
always had.
Okay, so you both shared the house.
Yes.
Okay, so that explains some of what I was reading, because I'm just going to try and unravel it as we go along, just piece by piece, so that we can try and get some sort of an understanding as how we got to this place. How did a young man in his own home get shot in his bedroom by police? Because part of the story says that she called police because he wouldn't leave. Why would she be asking him to leave?
Because she was like that. Whenever she would know what buttons to push, and she would know because when I was here, I would put a stop to it. I'm like, you know what? At your age, he's a child regardless. You know, if he's in his 20s, she was an adult. But she was one of those who just likes to push buttons and push buttons. And me, I can ignore a person in a heartbeat. I don't have a problem with that. But my son, he couldn't. I would tell him, please just ignore her. Even my mom would always tell him, like, it's better to have like one crazy person than two crazy people. So why don't you just ignore her? Whenever she starts her little tantrums, she was just, I don't know what her problem was. I don't. All I know is that night she was on meth.
Right.
And because when the cops went into her room, they found her pipe, they found her little bag, and she was just, I still try to wrap my head around that. Like, why would you do that? Like, why? I mean, did you hate him that much that you felt you had I'm pretty sure this is not the outcome she expected, but still, she knew better.
That's a bit of a. I think partly you're almost trying to defend her slightly.
Oh no.
Okay.
No,
so
I'm not at all.
Let's just go back to this incident, because she's called the police, and she's told the police that he was being was an accusation that he was being aggressive to her. But why? What was her reason for calling the police to have him removed from the home? What was her explanation? What was the reason that the police thought that they were coming there for?
I guess, like I said, I wasn't here, unfortunately, and I guess she kept calling them. I don't know if she called like 911 or the non-emergency number, but I guess she kept calling them, and I guess they just said, you know what, just get it over, let's go see what's going on. But like I said, he was already in his bedroom sleeping. He was already, because I knew his pattern. Like whenever he would drink, he would be with his friends, and he'd come home no later than like 1 o'clock, and he'd be asleep. He didn't have any weapons. He didn't have any weapons or anything. And they were trying to say that he had a knife and that he lunged at them. But come on, if you're sleeping already and and then all of a sudden somebody opens the door all violently, of course you're gonna get startled. You're gonna what the heck's going on? And that's when they said that he had a knife, and they shot him like 9 times in his bed.
I'm just reading from one of the reports from the Kuzi News. It says, the events that led to the shooting began about 7 the previous evening, when Carrasco's aunt made an emergency call to report that her nephew was drunk and angry and had grabbed her by the throat while throwing her onto a coffee table in their home, according to Dumanis. Who's Dumanis? Is he the police chief or something?
I don't remember that name.
Right.
I'm sorry.
District Attorney. That was the District Attorney, Bonnie Dumanis. Right. So the events that led to the shooting began about 7 the previous evening, when Carrasco's aunt made an emergency call to report that her nephew was drunk and angry and had grabbed her by the throat while throwing her onto a coffee table in their home. By the time police arrived, Carrasco had fled, and officers were unable to locate him. About 1:45 the next morning, the woman called 911 again, this time to report that Carrasco was threatening to get a knife and stab her. Right? When Snake, Widner, and 2 other officers arrived at the residence, the woman told them her nephew was in a rear bedroom and had threatened the life of anyone who entered. Now, how much of this report have you read or have you heard?
I read it all, and what was really scary is that when they went in there, because she did not know if my youngest granddaughter Isabel, who was 4 at the time, was in the room with him, and I heard like the 911 call that they made, and then I could hear like the gunshots, and then I could hear them say like to check and see if they had the young female in there. What if she was in there? I mean, who that to me is just it just blows my mind, like how everything happened. And even my the youngest one, she's the one that she told me that my sister was pulling his hair and like I guess sucking and pinching him or something, because I remember her telling me, she's like, that was not nice, Grandma. Why did Auntie Carmen, hit my dad? So like I said, she knew how to push buttons, and my son, unfortunately, he couldn't, like he couldn't ignore her or whatever. So, but he never, like I said, he was not a knife wielding person. I'm sorry, he did not have any weapons at all. But the media is gonna write what they think is gonna sell. I don't know. And then I was reading like all the comments that people were writing. People who didn't even know my son, and they were already like judging him, calling him, like a gangbanger and this and that. It was like, oh my God. And it took me a year to even read those comments, because it's ridiculous. It's like people who don't even know him were just like, assuming the worst.
Do you know, the funny thing is, I've been dealing with unlawful killings and police brutality on this particular show for over 3 years now, 3.5 years now. And I never get surprised by the simplicity of the mistakes that are overlooked by the district attorneys and the public when they're supporting police in killing unlawfully unarmed individuals. So bear with me as I just take you through this, because I want to rip this to pieces. It says here, let me just go back to it.
Okay.
No, I just want to. All right. He threatened the life. So it says, when Snick and Widner and 2 other officers arrived at the residence, so that's 4 officers, the woman told them her nephew was in a rear bedroom and had threatened the life of anyone who entered. How did they accept her statement as being the situation at hand when your son was nowhere to be seen, behaving in a threatening manner to justify the intensity of that particular complaint? Do you understand where I'm coming from here?
Like what led to that point to
No.
where they believe
your
her?
sister is saying
Uh-huh.
that your son Mark threatened the life of anyone who entered. She's told them he's in the back bedroom and he has threatened. Now, they've not heard him say, I'm going to kill anybody who comes in this room. That's what she's saying he said. But they've not collaborated that with anybody. They've not found evidence of a violent lunatic maniac, sort of like sprawled across the house, going through corridors. She's said that he's in a rear bedroom and he has threatened the life of anyone who entered. So that already has preempted the police position, right, in believing that they're going to be dealing with a violent and volatile individual. So your sister has a lot to answer for right now, right? Because she is preparing the ground, right, for a violent approach, defensively and offensively, by the police. But my position is still this. At what point did the police try to verify or clarify that the person that was in that room was prepared to threaten the life of anyone who entered? Because that's still only what she said, not anything that they've evidenced for themselves. So what are your thoughts on the fact that your sister has given police the impression that your son is prepared to kill anyone that enters the room? Because that's the context of that statement.
Yeah, she was, like I said, she I don't know what she thought. I really don't know. And plus, she was all high on meth. So I guess, her mind was probably playing tricks on her or something. But she, like I said, she did not she didn't like my son at all, at all. And then, like I said, she would always take advantage of when I wasn't here, so she could do her little shenanigans, and that's what she did. She probably thought that, like I said, she probably didn't think this what was going to happen. But what else did you think was going to happen? She's here calling them and telling them
But
this and
yeah,
telling them
your,
that.
your sister
And
has a lot to answer for. But it's like children, isn't it? You're a parent, and
yes,
you're a grandmother. I'm a parent and a grandparent. And my children can come up to me, and my grandchildren can often come up to me with tales. My youngest daughter is older, and an auntie to some of my grandchildren, because she was, my wife has older children, and who are, my youngest daughter has much older stepsisters who have children that are around about her age. So when they're all playing in the house, they often come one by one, with their tales of what one is doing to the other, how mean someone is being, or how horrible someone is being, or someone else did this or said that, etc. But as the adult, we read between the lines and we go, well, hang on a minute, well, what happened here, and who did that, and we try to define what really happened and say, right, okay, well, that was really, she didn't mean to do that. That was, and we read between the lines. So when an irate, aggravated, and if your sister was on meths, I'd be highly surprised if she wasn't under the influence at the time, and that these officers who often deal with people like this was not aware that she was under the influence of something, as she was hyperactively trying to generate some sort of violent reaction from them. So for me, they were the adults in that situation. At what point do we give them the responsibility that they didn't actually look between the lines to see that this woman was high on something, aggravated by something, and misleading them to something that they probably didn't need to be going into? The police need to be taking responsibility for those choices, because I'm not aware of the facts, and there's no other reports that I've got that tells me exactly what the police did in order for them to be able to clarify just how dangerous the situation might be. Because bear with me, she also told the officers she was concerned for her nephew's 3-year-old daughter, who she believed was also in the bedroom. So they believed that the 3-year-old daughter might be in the bedroom with your son.
yes,
Right?
yes,
Snick and Widner went to the back bedroom, identified themselves through the closed door as police officers, and ordered Carrasco to come out. But they got no response. They entered and saw the suspect lying on a bed covered with a blanket. Now, I just want to stop there for a while, because I really want us to get an understanding of what I've just said. So you've got an irate, aggravated, under the influence individual who's been calling 911, talking about that her nephew is threatening her, grabbing her around the throat, throwing her around on the table, wielding a knife, gone into a back bedroom, and has suggested that if anybody entered the room, he was going to kill them. And the police have arrived there, and they've only got her word for it. Right? So they come in to try and clarify the situation. They get to the bedroom where they believe that he is, and he's fast asleep under a duvet. Now, at that point, and I really wish that I'd invited one or two of my chief of police officer friends to be on the show with me, because they might have been able to clarify this better. Because I would have thought to myself, at that point you shut the door, you take the woman back to sit down and start trying to get an understanding of what took place and what was the timeline. Because at this precise moment in time, there's no threat.
I know that he was, like I said, he was already sleeping. So I don't understand. And how they can say they were not guilty, that's just ridiculous.
Irrespective of what they said, do you not understand what I'm trying to say to you here? There were, at this precise moment in time, there was no threat. He wasn't argumentative. He wasn't suggestive. He wasn't being aggressive or violent. He wasn't being confrontational. In fact, he was out cold, and the only reason he didn't respond when they asked him to come out was because he was asleep.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And it's like, and then I guess from what I've heard, I guess as soon as they came, she just left. She went outside, and then that's when they that's when they shot him. And I still don't understand why. I'm just as baffled as you because when someone's under the influence, and I know just by looking at her, just ugh. So I don't know the cops. I don't know. I can't even try to understand how cops think.
Let's try and talk a little bit more about your sister, for example. How long has your
Okay.
sister been using whatever she was using? How long had she been on meths? How long had she been using drugs?
Oh, she was since, oh my God, years. I'm trying to think, maybe even in her, started like in her late 20s, because she's 5 years younger than me. So so she was on that for quite some time.
So I would have imagined that she was also known to the police.
No, actually, no. She had a job and everything, but I mean, come on, cops can tell. I'm just
I
thinking
mean,
they were tired.
meth is not like marijuana or alcohol. There's a real hyperactiveness that comes with that, isn't it?
Yes, I'm like it just.
And
I
and,
guess
and, and, and unlike here in the UK, in America, they're quite used to dealing with individuals that are on meths because it's quite a common dependency for addicts in America.
Yes, it
So
is. So I don't.
so she would have been erratic. Should have been hyperactive.
Yeah, because from what I've heard, like from the like the neighbors, anybody that was out there when this happened, they could tell. They said she kept on like moving her hands and just like smoking a cigarette and just talking, blah 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 blah, not making sense.
So the police then say moments later, Carrasco threw off the covering and rose to his knees, holding the knife, according to police. Refusing the officers' repeated shouts to drop the weapon. Carrasco lurched forward, prompting them to fire a total of 9 .45 caliber and 9mm bullets at him. Schnick shot twice, and Widner discharged 7 rounds, according to the district attorney. An autopsy determined that Carrasco died of wounds to his head, chest, shoulder, abdomen, left arm, and right leg. At the time of his death, he had a blood alcohol level of 0.20%, which is 2.5 times the legal limit for driving. But was he driving?
No, he wasn't. Okay. He was at home.
So
he wasn't driving. He was.
That's irrelevant. California law empowers peace officers to use lethal force to protect themselves and others from threats of death and great bodily harm. Oh.
I don't. I think that's a weapon of choice because whenever you read anything, oh, he had a knife. He had a knife. He didn't have a knife. I'm sorry. I don't care what anyone tries to tell me. I knew my son. My son. This is not my son. This is not how she tried to portray him. I'm telling you, you should have seen how many people went to his service, and it was like not just like Mexican. There was like all kinds of races. Because my son, he was a friendly guy. He he liked to talk. He liked to talk to people. He loved to sing, and he was all like into old school, and he was just a fun guy to be around. He was. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know. God does things for a reason, I suppose, but he didn't deserve to die that way. He was not that kind of person.
This happened in 2011, right?
Yes.
Which is kind of like 7 years ago.
Yes, yes, we celebrated 7 years.
Do you feel that over the years that you've mellowed with this, or are you still angry?
Oh, I'm angry. I'm not. I'm not. I'm sorry. He didn't deserve to die this way. He did not deserve it at all. And it just makes me angry. And she knew she did something wrong because she didn't come back after that. I mean, if her conscience was clear, I would think she would want to talk to me and explain to me, give me her side of the story. But no, she didn't, and she didn't come back for maybe a week later. And this is because I told my sister-in-law that I was going to take all her stuff and put it outside, and she needed to come pick it up because there was no way in hell that we could live together after that happened. There was just no way. And I know that you're not supposed to have anger in your heart or hate, but I mean, I forgave her because I want to go to heaven and see my son and my mom and dad. But I told her, I go, we will never have a relationship. There's just, I go, please do not approach me at any time. I, she doesn't know what she took from me. She took the most valuable thing in my life. And then for her to walk around and think that she didn't do anything wrong, she's a stupid individual. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Let's just be frank and honest as we do this. The officer asked Carrasco to get up, at which point he pulled back the covers, revealing a knife in his hand. Right, so that's one sentence. In the very next sentence, it says this: Carrasco then allegedly, so they're not convinced, got up, still holding the makeshift weapon. Now, holding the makeshift weapon is a different scenario to revealing a knife in his hand. This comes one sentence after the other. The first sentence says that he revealed a knife in his hand, and the very next paragraph it says that he got up holding the makeshift weapon. Now, a kitchen knife, a long or large kitchen knife, is not a makeshift weapon. It's a lethal weapon. A weapon that can kill. It's not a makeshift weapon. A makeshift weapon suggests that somebody is using a utensil that can also be used as a weapon. You know, like he's taken a piece of metal and sharpened it, or, you know, taken a piece of wood and made it into a steak knife or something, right?
Yeah.
So these reports are not making sense. So please tell us, explain to us, if you possibly can, what evidence did the police produce as to the weapon that your son was meant to be holding at the time that they shot him?
Okay, well, I remember talking to one of the lawyers that one of his ex-girlfriends had got, and I don't even know why he did this to me, but I guess there was a picture of him on the bed, and they had like a knife by his hand. I'm like, really? Come on, a kitchen knife? I'm sorry. To this day, I think they planted that knife on him because like I said, that's not Mark. That was not Mark. And if you were to ask all of his friends and all of his acquaintances, they would tell you that is not Mark. And plus, his friends already knew how my sister was because, like, whenever, you know, his friends would come over, you know, just to, like, you know, listen to the radio and just talk, you know, have a couple of beers. It would infuriate her. Like, why are they here? They have to go. You know, it's like, why? They're not bothering anyone, you know, because she would be in her room like 24/7, you know, doing God knows what. But, you know, so I don't know why they did that. But I know for a fact, I'm 100% sure, even though I was not here, he did not have any knife on him. That's not the kind of person that he was. So,
okay, so here's the other issue. Am I correct in believing that Schnick, a 16-year department member, was assigned to the Northern Division, was a veteran with the SPD K9 unit? Was the K9 unit in response to this case? Did they have the K9 unit with them?
you know what? I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure. Like I said, I was not here. I was in Tijuana. But I'm not quite sure. All I know is because my cousin was here, like, controlling the house while I was gone, that, you know, there was quite a number of cops outside trying to, you know, control this, because all his friends were here. Like, after they found out, you know, all his friends were out here, and I don't know if they had a K9 or not.
So, as far as the investigation into his death was concerned, did you play any part in it? Did you go to any hearings? What took place once he was dead? Apart from the funeral and the burial, which we can, you know, you mentioned that it was 300 odd people came. What happened next? What happened? Was it an investigation? Did you attend?
Well, yeah, his dad had got this one lawyer, but I don't know what happened to them. They said that what had happened? Oh shoot, I'm so sorry. I lost my train of thought here. Um, there was no court, there was no trial, there wasn't anything. I mean, we like I said, we were trying to sue them, but when the Internal Affairs said like it was justified, the I hate to say that I gave up, but it was just like I couldn't relive it over and over again. And I'm just hoping come judgment day they will get what they deserve because what they did is they murdered my son. It's straight out murder. But for you to convict a police, I don't. That's close to impossible because they all, like they say, they're good cops, bad cops. No, well, the good cops should tell on the bad cops because that just makes them just as bad. And uh, I'm sorry, how are you going to shoot someone 9 times and say it's justified? It does not make sense to me. I can't even wrap my head around that. I can't. It's
I
it has to stop. It has to stop
I
because
I,
this
I
isn't.
I'm kind of struggling to get past how they were able to sell to the district attorney um, justifiable cause, because I understand what the law says. The law says that the police are, when they're in fear of their life, they have the right to defend, etc. When people's lives are threatened, um, but I can't imagine. Here's the thing. So your son's had a row with your sister. She claims he's grabbed her by the throat and thrown her on a table. Now that suggests to me that he can physically handle her if she gets on his nerves. Why would he take a knife to bed?
Exactly, he wouldn't. He just wouldn't. And that's like I said. That's not. That's
It
out of
it, it
character. He
doesn't it
wouldn't.
doesn't make any sense, right?
No,
Whether
not
he's
at
drunk or
all.
not. I mean, it sounds like he was physically able to handle your sister, no matter how wild she got. So why would he take a knife to bed with him?
Exactly, he didn't. I'm sorry. I don't. He
And
didn't.
and then here's the thing. Being that your sister, is high on meths and was probably high on meths and was being argumentative, disruptive, and abusive, when the police arrived, for him, it would have been an opportunity for him to point the finger at her and say because it sounds like she was attacking him or she was being abusive to him, and he was being defensive or because if he was attacking her with the intention of harming her, what was he doing in his bed?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if that was the case, then when he supposedly choked her, he would have done it right then and there. I mean, why?
Why didn't he just finish it? But for me,
Exactly,
the
because
police have not asked any questions. There's been no inquiry made. There's no mini investigation taking place. There's no questions being asked as to what actually took place. They've not got any facts available to them. They've not heard the other side of the story. They've just taken her word for it, and they've not been able to ascertain that this woman is high on meths, right, and is pointing him in the direction of an innocent man. So I'm just wondering, why hasn't anybody pursued the obvious arguments that shows the incompetence of the officers attending the scene of the crime?
We try. I mean, we try. Like I said, if Mark's dad got a lawyer, and so did one of Mark's ex-girlfriend, the mom of my younger granddaughter. I don't. I mean, we tried. I mean, maybe we didn't try hard enough. But I mean, look around you. Like, look at Oh, I keep forgetting his name. Philandro.
Yeah, Philandro
The
Castillo.
one that was killed in front of his fiance and his daughter. That right there tells me like, how in the hell can they say that that's justified? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's just like fighting a battle that you're not going to win because they cover each other up. You know what I'm trying to say? Like in Spanish, it's like se tapa uno con el otro. Like it's a little gang. The whole police department. But I don't know what else.
I agree it's a little game that the police department play, but the evidence or the lack of it is staring us in the face, and I can't understand why nobody is not pursuing a claim or a prosecution against the officers, because if they have produced the knife, they would have had to have produced the knife with his fingerprints on it.
I understand. I fully understand. I just don't. I don't know. It just got to the point where, like, okay, whatever happens, the outcome, it's not going to bring my son back. And at that point in time, I was just like, I was like walking like in a bubble, still not believing. It took me 6 years for me to pack his clothes in the closet, because somewhere, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but I just thought, well, what if he comes back and, his clothes, I don't know. It's just, I never in my life thought that this would ever happen. Because we're not supposed to bury our children. We're not.
You say, Elisa, that nothing you do can bring your son back, and I get that. I understand that, and I'm really sorry for your loss. And I can hear in the conversations that we've had, and in some of the in between messages that we've been sending to one another over the last few weeks, etc. I can tell just how much this means to you, and how much of a loss it is. And even in your description earlier on of what your sister doesn't realize, that she's taken from you the most precious thing of all. I get that. I understand that. But more than 11 years ago, Widner was one of 3 San Diego policemen and 3 California Highway Patrol personnel involved in the fatal shooting of an ex-con at the end of a 3-hour road chase through 4 counties, where the young man, Michael Allen Thayer, was left dead with 17 bullet wounds to his chest, abdomen, and extremities. And in the end, they found out that he had a replica gun, which means that while the 17 shots were being fired at him, killing him dead, he never fired one shot back. And the police continually use this in fear of their life scenario in order for them to justify a kill. But when they are fired 17 shots to kill an individual who has not fired one shot back in anger, how do you justify an officer being in fear of his life? And bearing in mind that Widner has done this already, 11 years later, he is now shooting dead another so-called possibly unarmed individual, right, who was fast asleep before they woke him up and shot him 9 times. Now, I'm quite aware that the officers have other means of restraining the individuals, but for example, back in 2011, did they have in their possession tasers and stuff like that back then in that particular police force?
They did. They do. And then they also have the ones that I think they call them like pellet guns, where they shoot like little bean bags or something like that. But I don't know. It's like they're shooting to kill.
So you have 4 police officers who, at a point in time, were at a fair enough distance from the individual whom they claimed got up, pulled back the sheets, revealed a knife, got down on his knees. Now, I'm saying this because this is the sort of time frame that we're talking about this happening, that trained officers going to deal with a violent, volatile situation didn't have the common sense, if they are telling the truth, to pull out the taser or the pellet gun and try and find a way of stopping him or deterring him before using lethal force. Now, my question to you, Elisa, is what investigations has been done, what present representations have been done in order to try and reveal the incompetency of the San Diego police in handling this particular situation of someone who may well not have been armed, and that they have created a false impression of what took place. So they have lied, they've falsified evidence. But even if they didn't falsify evidence, even if these officers were telling the truth, the time it took for them to wake him up, they would have had enough time to prepare their weapons, any weapon, the taser or the pellet guns. By the time he threw back the sheets, they would have had enough time to tell him to put his hands up. By the time he revealed the knife in his hand, and I'm only going by the description that they've given on their account, they would have had another opportunity to warn him that they were armed, that if he didn't put down his weapons and raise his hands, that they would be inclined to shoot. And by the time he got out of the bed and got onto his knees on the floor, they would have had more than enough time, with the four of them at the door, to fire tasers and pellet guns that would have actually been able to bring him to not just his knees, but to the ground, where they would have been able to disarm him appropriately and arrest him. Now, my question is, why, if his father, his ex-girlfriend or whatever, there is sufficient information, or there is sufficient lack of information that suggests that these officers acted incompetently and possibly, right, have actually fabricated the evidence to make it look like your son was armed. And where I would ask, is there a pursuit of prosecution? Is there a pursuit of an investigation? What's being done in order to try and open up an investigation that would have someone else look at this case that would possibly bring about a prosecution against these police officers?
Well, like I said, we had two lawyers, and like I said, I just got to the point where we're just they found him not guilty. They found him that was the case, that it was justified. And I know deep down inside, yeah, maybe I should have pursued it more. But like I said, I didn't want to be disappointed again. And it seems like every time something like this happens, they always get away with it. They always have some kind of justification. And I can't do that anymore. I'm just waiting for, like I said, Judgment Day. That they will pay. I'm sure they will. I'm not going to be able to see it. I wish I could, but nothing. I don't want to say like I gave up, because that would mean like I'm giving up on my son, and that's not. I can't explain. I know what I'm trying to say, but it's to like relive it all over again for the outcome to be the same, because that seems to be the pattern with all these police shootings. Like, it's always justifiable, always, but we know it's not. But who's in the force is going to be like, who's going to be like the good cop is going to tell on all the bad apples? You know what I mean? It's like they'll find a way to say, like, no, it's justifiable, and I don't know how to answer that question.
I hear you. I mean, I think, we can all sit down here from where we are and make assumptions as to what can be done and how it can be pursued. What support are you getting from other organisations in order to try and find a way forward in getting justice for Mark?
Well, like I met like a lot of friends through Facebook who have also had the same thing. There was this one lady that I met, she's from Vista, California, and her son Sergio Wex. He was also like, they said he had a gun, but I guess he was like running, and they shot him like almost 18 times, and he didn't have the weapon on him. He didn't have any weapon on him. The weapon was in the car, but he didn't have. You know what I mean? It's like 18 times, and it's justified. How in the hell do you justify 18 times? The man is running, back towards the policeman. Like, how is that justifiable? And then the same police that did that, well, the sheriff, because it's in Vista, like not even a year later, they shoot another innocent man, shot him like 17, 18 times also. The same police, the same cop. Not even a year. Like, why can't I don't understand why they just don't do a clean sweep, get rid of all the bad apples, and, I'm sure there's some good cops out there. I'm sure they are, but where are they when you need them? Because I just don't I don't understand. I just don't understand how they get away with that. And I'm also, like I said, I'm in this group called the National Unity Against Police Brutality, and they always have like protests on October 22nd. And I'll go to those because that way I can meet people who are going through the same thing that I'm going through. Because to lose a child is like an unexplainable pain. And then you have all those people who like, oh, the police this, the police that. But like, the way I see it is like, until it happens to you individually, no one will ever understand. No one will ever understand the pain and the anger that one feels. You know, they just go, turn your world upside down, shake it around and everything, and they just go home to their homes as if nothing happened, not knowing the devastation that they caused. But don't let it be one of them who gets killed because, oh my God, oh, he was such a this, he was that, he had a family. What about the victims? They have families too. We hurt just as much as they do, but I, it's so much. It just frustrates me. I'm so sorry. It doesn't make sense to me. What's going on in this world is just too much.
It is, but
I don't get it.
Dana Lynn Scarzoni says that it's because the cops have qualified immunity and it's a free pass to kill. The law needs to change. You're quite right, Dana, and we have pursued this line of qualified immunity, which we did with Jonathan Newton from National Association Against Police Brutality, and also Jerry Summers, former chief of police. We've done this particular show, and we've looked at the qualified immunity, which basically means that if the police are not aware of what law they are breaking at the time that they breach someone's basic human rights, that they are immune from prosecution. And that's the top level. And if that fails, then they have the standard, I was in fear for my life, which is the banker.
Yeah, so, that's what they say all the time.
which means that it's almost a double tier of protection. Now, if we don't keep challenging, if we don't keep pushing against the grain, if we don't try and find a way to stop or making them believe that it's just an easy get out clause and they can get away with it, they will continue to pursue this and try and get away with it. We've got to keep fighting. And what I'm saying to you, Elisa, is no matter how many years has passed, right, there is sufficient information and evidence available to suggest, right, that we can look at pursuing a prosecution against those officers, right? Now, here's the question. Where are you as far as you and your sister's relationship are concerned?
Oh, no, I do not speak to her because of that one time I called her and I told her, I just called her to say, I forgive you, but me and you will never have a relationship, and I know that we're going to see each other at funerals for sure. I mean, I see, because, we had the same friends, and I can't tell people, like, don't talk to her, don't do this, but I just tell them, if you do speak to her, don't tell her anything about me, don't tell her anything about what goes on in this household, don't do anything, because in her mind, she thinks she didn't do anything wrong, because one time she came over here insisting to, she was going to come back and live here. I'm like, no, you're not. Because like my parents like left the house to both of us. They had like a living trust will, a living trust or something like that. And but there's just no way in hell I'm gonna let her stay here because I'm sorry, I would kill her. Yeah. I would kill her. And everyone told me, well, that's your sister. That's your sister. I don't care. I didn't give birth to her. I gave birth to my child, not to her. And to me, like I told her that day when I found out that he was killed. I told her I lost two people. I lost my son and I lost a sister because and for her, like one time she came here and she's trying to tell me that she didn't do anything wrong. Are you kidding me? What do you mean you didn't do anything wrong? You might have not pulled the trigger, sweetheart, but you fucking loaded that. I'm sorry, you loaded that gun. You put the bullets in that gun. So and for her to say she didn't do anything wrong. It was like, I just remember that day. All I remember is seeing red, and I just lunged at her. I did lunge at her. I don't care. And then thank God my cousin was here. He's like, no, stop. But I've never in my life ever seen red. I never knew what that meant until that day when she came here, insisting that she was going to come move back in here and then going to tell me she didn't do anything wrong. Because I had already walked away. But as soon as I heard that word, I was like, what the heck did you just say to me? And I lost it. So I don't talk to her. And it's just, she'll try to talk to me. And like I said, I can ignore you like nobody's business. And then like the last time I seen her was at my friend's funeral. And then she's all crying, telling like, "Oh my God, Lisa, I love you," blah blah blah. And I just walk away. I just do an about face. I'm like, first of all, this is not the time or the place. And I had already told her. I tell every time she try like, do not talk to me. Get away from me. I do not want to talk to her. I don't want anything to do with her. And then somehow or another, she tries to weasel her way back in, try to talk. And it's like, I don't understand. Is she that far gone that she does not realize what she did? Because she did do something wrong. She did, and I don't. Like I said, I don't care what anyone says. Like when they try to tell that's your sister, I don't care. She's not my child, so I don't care.
You and
Like,
your sister shared the same house for many years, and I need to be careful in what I say because I'm not trying to judge you in any way. Please don't, if it comes across that way, please forgive me because that's not what I'm meaning. But in the relationship that you've had with your sister, you were aware that she had been on meths for some time, right?
yes,
Okay, so you was aware of her erratic behavior, suspect behavior, inappropriate behavior, and maybe the lengths that she went to either to hide it or even support it.
did I support it?
No,
Is that what you're asking me?
you was aware of the lengths that
Oh
she
yes, I
went
was
to hide
aware.
it, and you was aware of the lengths that she went to support it.
Yes, I was, and there was a. This is the kind of person I am. If I see there's something wrong, or I can see that you're trying to, you're gonna harm yourself. I'll tell you one time, and if I care enough, I'll tell you two times. But after that, I'm not gonna, to me that my conscience is clear. I tried to tell her one time, what the heck are you doing? Because back then, I guess when she started doing it, she was smoking it like she would put it on foil, and then she would get like a pen, like hollow out a pen, and do it and smoke it like that. And I just remember that one pen was so black inside from I guess from all the smoke or whatever. And I was just like, girl, what are you doing to yourself? But she's like, oh, no, I don't want to hear it. I want to hear it. And then like a couple of weeks later, she's like, what were you gonna tell me like that? I'm like, you know what? Forget it. You're a grown ass woman, and I tried to tell you once, you didn't listen. That's on you. Because I mean, you're not hurting me, you're hurting yourself. So, but I just no. Now if I see her, I can look right through her.
But here's the thing, right? Your sister's behavior, what your sister's addiction, your sister's dependency on meths explains why she did what she did the way that she did it. It doesn't justify it. But
Not at all.
But if you want to get a decent prosecution, you're going to need your sister, because your sister might have been erratic. Your sister might have been irrational. Your sister might have been under the influence of meths. Your sister was probably lying. Your sister exaggerated the circumstances. Your sister called the police, and your sister invited them into the home. But whatever happened next was their choices. They lied about your son having a knife. They lied about your son lunging at them, and they lied about the reasons why they shot him 9 times and killed him dead in his bedroom. They did that. She didn't. Now, you're quite right when you say that your sister wasn't aware of how far this would go, and that's what that was her explanation. She probably wasn't. She probably just wanted him out of the house. Wanted him out of the house. She wanted them to get him out of the house. But
Yes.
everything they did after they came into that house, they did with the professionalism, the experience, the knowledge, the training, and all of the resources that they had available to them. They made those choices. Your sister didn't. You rightly said your sister left the house as soon as the police came in, and she was outside. She was outside smoking. She was outside frantic. She was outside waving her hands. She was outside talking. She was outside. So Yes, your sister has a lot to answer for because under the influence of meths, she made all the decisions and choices and calls that invited the police to your home. Her erraticness, her unreasonableness, the lack of a decent relationship that she had or didn't have with your son, all of these things led to her being the way that she did. And yes, your son probably got angry with her and pushed her and maybe even grabbed her by the throat and told her to go away and get lost and leave him alone. He had been drinking with his friends. He had probably had enough and was frustrated, knew he had to get to sleep because he had work the next day. Right? He didn't want to be sitting around arguing with your sister all night. So maybe he did slightly manhandle her and push her to one side, and then he went to bed. Everything that happened thereafter was the police's choice. The way that they handled it, the way that they managed your son, the way that they shot him, and the excuses and explanations that they made for justifying their kill was their decisions, their choices, and their wrongdoing. That, unfortunately, Elisa, you can't pin on your sister. And I'm saying, if you were to find a way to communicate with your sister, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to forgive her. She just needs to feel like she's been forgiven. You might be able to get more information from her, even in as much as an admission that she was wrong, all this way down the line. Whether it makes your relationship with her better or not is not the question. For me, it's about trying to get the information necessary, right, to be able to bring these officers to book, because your sister didn't tell them to do what they did next. That was on them. Do you understand where I'm coming from, Elisa?
Yeah. Yes, I understand what you're saying to me.
And so therefore, as a layman, when I'm looking at the information and the evidence, as I'm reading it, I can pick holes in all of these areas that the police try to defend themselves with. Marilyn Covarrubias, I can't pronounce her surname, but Marilyn, yes. She says, we are treating human beings as though we are meet competence. Even when they are called to come and help, they have a mindset that sends them straight into kill mode, and too many ignorant, blind people cannot see. Must they lose someone to a killer for them to take off the blinders? Innocent people are being murdered. And this is for somebody, I'm sure I've had her on my show already. And if I haven't, I will. But yes, we are actually, people are being treated as competence. It's the mindset that the police enter into. And unfortunately, sometimes when you call the police in, right, that's the expectation that we now have, that somebody's coming out in a body bag. But your sister, under the influence of meth, right, she's addicted to drugs, which is, it's the drugs that's predicting her behavior. It's the drugs that's controlling her behavior. It's her choice to take them, but it's the drugs that control the behavior. And I think you need to find a way to get past your sister's addiction. You need to get past the fact that it was your sister that called the police, in order for you to get to the truth, which is what the police did. Because your sister, if your sister would testify that your son didn't have a knife and that she was lying when she told him that he threatened to stab her, or he threatened to kill anybody that entered the room, because I believe that that's what she said to provoke a situation, whether she thought that was going to be the outcome or not. But for me, the police did not investigate enough a genuine threat either to her or to anybody else before they went in there with brutal force. Finding him in his bed, asleep under covers, is not a viable threat. There is absolutely no justification in killing an individual that was asleep. But if they can testify that he lunged with them with a knife, then they have, I was in fear for my life. What I don't understand is how the process of him waking up, getting the covers off him, getting down on his knees, didn't give them enough time to find another way of handling the situation from a distance when there was 4 of them and 1 of him. And he wasn't a known villain. He wasn't a known violent thug. He wasn't a known gangster. He had no violent convictions from his past. The police had no relationship with him as far as arresting him and him being violent with them. So there was absolutely no reason for them to fear him or be in fear of their life. And you might need your sister and supporting your sister in order for you to be able to get the truth from your sister, in order to be able to get them prosecuted for the unlawful killing of your son.
Yeah, that is something that I excuse me, that I know that she would not do, because, like I said, Mark's father got a lawyer, and so did his ex-girlfriend, and they at one point in time it was my sister, my older sister, and then my son's ex-girlfriend and her mom. They went to like I don't know if it was like a briefing or something, and she was just going along with what the cops were saying. So I know for a fact that she would not try to help me. She would not, just I wish you would know her, and then you would understand. She's not that kind of person. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, if she could clear my son's name, oh heck yeah, I would do that, because I would do anything for Mark. But like I said, I know her. Like they say, you know your people. I know her. I know how she is, and there's just no way in hell that she would ever say that, that she was wrong, that what she did was wrong, and yes, the cops were lying, and yes, I was lying. There's just no way that she would do that. I mean, I like I said, I know her, and I know the kind of person that she is.
I believe you when you say that, but I don't believe that there's not a way to get to the truth. I don't believe that there's not a way, or there's not a person that could be used to mediate to get to the truth, because at some point, if your sister is lying, which we believe that she is, right, there's going to be something inside of her, right, that's going to be tugging at her conscience, because irrespective of however they got on, that was you're her sister, and that was her nephew, and she is now orphaned a little child, 2 children, in fact, who will now grow up without a father or the knowledge of a father because of her wrongdoing. And she's going to find that difficult to live with. Somebody is going to be able to reach her. Somebody is going to be able to get that truth from her. But the most important thing is, without that truth, it's very difficult to pursue any other action against the officers who unlawfully killed your son.
Oh yeah, they murdered him. I don't like that's. I mean, I wish there was a way, but I know her. I know how she is, and she's a very ugly person, inside and out. And it's like, I don't know, like I said, I don't know what it was, maybe because she couldn't have children and she resented me for having Mark. But I just I don't know.
An acquaintance of mine who I've had on this show, Gina Thane, says this: "Lady, family is family. Pull your head out and do it. Make up with her. Your son's name is at stake here." And I agree with that sentiment. Somehow, you're going to have to find a way past your pain. Not necessary to forgive her, but somehow you've got to find a way to start communicating with her so that you can get to the truth and get some peace and justice for your son. Because I will tell you again, the headlines: man shot, cleared in shooting of knife-wielding man. All the headlines relating to your son's case refer to him as a knife-wielding person, which, to those who don't know him, can see him as an aggressor who then justifies the police cry of "I was in fear of my life." And the only way we're going to turn that around is A, to prove that the threat was never really there, to prove that your sister exaggerated it under the influence of meth and because she had a personal difficulty with your son, and the fact that the police were aware that he wasn't armed, because if he wasn't armed, it means that somebody planted the weapon.
Yeah, that's. Oh my God. I don't know. I don't know if I could.
But here's the thing: if somebody planted the weapon, that's not your sister, because you've already told us your sister was outside. So
I know.
the only people that could have planted the weapon were the police, and we either believe what we believe or we don't. And if you believe that your sister lied, if you believe that your son was innocent, if you believe, and it's not hard not to believe, because the police have already said he was in bed and he did not respond, which suggests he was asleep. And then they have provoked him into waking up, at which point he's pulled the covers off him while he was, as they've woken him up. And then he's got out of bed, and then they're claiming he lunged at them with a knife. And I'm saying, which man in his right mind, in his own home, goes to bed with a kitchen knife or a makeshift weapon?
Not my son. I understand where you're coming from, and it makes a lot of sense. But I mean, I wish I could be that person. I'm like, okay, let's talk this out. But just her just saying to me, like,
if you can't be that person, Elisa, you need to find out somebody in your family who can, because you need the truth. Your son needs the truth.
Yes, my son. I understand. I understand what you're saying.
Elisa, here I am, right? I'm here in the UK. I've never met you in my life. This is the first time I'm hearing and reading your story, and I can see it. I can see how the police have lied. It's so obvious to me, and I know nothing about the case. Your sister was there. She knows they lied because she was the one that gave them the platform to lie. She was the one that lied when she called them into your home in the first place. She knew your son didn't have a knife. And if she would say that out loud for somebody else to be able to hear it, then that takes away the excuse that they have that she is covering them. And when you take away their main source of alibi, eventually things can start to crumble. I think you need to get a bit braver on this if you want peace and justice for your son. You can't just let it be like this. I'm really grateful that you've shared this show or this story on the show with me. But what I'm struggling to understand here is why we're not vigorously going after these officers who unlawfully killed your son in such a horrible way. And there is one person that can actually give you the peace that you need, which is the truth that your son's life wasn't taken in vain. You must contact a family member, somebody that's mutual to you both, that can talk to her on your behalf and get her to say the things that need to be said, that an investigation can be opened, a prosecution can be held, and those responsible can be made accountable. Because accountability is where it's at. We cannot continue to let our young men and women be shot and killed on the streets of either America or the UK without accountability. We have to fight for the next generation, because if we don't fight for them, who will?
That's so true. You know what? I'm gonna take your advice, but I'm gonna have, like I said, I can't speak to her, but I will have someone who's close to both of us, because you're right. I mean, like I said, I feel like sometimes like I gave up, and I don't want that. I don't want my son's death to be in vain. I don't want another mother to go through what what we're all going through. The moms that I talked to and met, who also have, whose children have been killed by police. And you're right. You are absolutely right about that.
Most of these groups that I belong to are inundated, filled with posts of mothers losing children. Protect Our Stolen Treasures is just one of those sites that I've recently joined and interviewed the women of Yolanda McNair and Donna Hayes Donna Chizese, in fact, Gina Thane, who's currently on this line. She was part of that group of women that I interviewed in a whole group from Protect Our Stolen Treasures. And these are mothers who are fighting for the memories and the integrity of their children's characters and lives based on the fact that they were taken, stolen by unlawful means and unscrupulous police officers who have used the law or their version of the law to take away the lives of our innocent loved ones. We can't just sit by and let that happen without fighting with everything we have, with everything we know, to bring about some sort of investigation that gets them to look at the evidence as it is. Because if I show this link to any common sense person, they're not going to be able to understand why there wasn't at least a full investigation, because this seems to have ended at the end of the autopsy and police report. There doesn't seem to have been any further investigation.
I know it's mind baffling. I understand. I mean,
now that's not your fault, because it appears that you haven't been you didn't have the support at the time, neither did you have the correct advice at the time. But it's not too late to pursue an investigation today. It's not too late to get the truth out today. If you look at the investigations, if you look at the newspapers, and this one was this is ABC News I'm looking at, and there are others that are reporting this, right? That reported on this. ABC 10 News. There are many other links that are actually attributed to your son's story, and none of them see as a straightforward justification to kill. They can't do, otherwise they wouldn't have worded it the way that they did. Now, in this particular story, they used the word allegedly. Carrasco then allegedly got up. So not even the paper are believing it. Still holding the makeshift weapon. You know? And more importantly, they've gone on to point out that Widner, 11 years ago, was one of 3 cops who shot another unarmed individual 17 times without a single shot being fired back. How do we justify these kills on our young men and women, right, when police are shooting them 20 and 30 and 15 and 10 times? How do we continue to allow them to justify that as I was in fear of my life? These are trained officers. Trained veterans of 16 years and some more. So, the question has to be, and I'll put it to you again. Your sister, angry with your son, calls the police. They come the previous evening. He's nowhere to be found. He's gone. He comes back, worse for wear, having a few drinks with his friends. Your sister decides to have a dig at him again. He may well have grabbed her by her throat or her jaw and pushed her around because of what she did. He may well have got angry with her and said some really horrible, hurtful things. He may well have taken a meth pipe and thrown it out the window or out on the street or something just to antagonize. He could have done all of these things. But he went to bed, which means at the moment that he went to bed, he was no longer a threat. She called 911 again. 911 arrived, irrespective of what she said. One of the things that she did say was he was in the back bedroom and he threatened to kill anyone that came in. They had no clarification, they had no verification, they had no evidence, no proof, no witnesses to confirm that that's what your son said and that was the temperament and the mood that he was in. None. She left the house. They went to the door, they knocked, he did not answer. He did not answer because he was asleep.
He was fast asleep. Yeah.
They go into the room, open the door. There are 4 of them, possibly and probably guns drawn. They try to get his attention. He doesn't respond. They make some louder noises by however way they did it, and he eventually wakes up. They would have had to have identified themselves by saying, "I am the police." And unless he was a criminally active individual who had a stash of drugs by the side of his bed or, illegal firearms, I can't understand why he would have got up in a volatile way, because the police had not wronged him and he has no previous convictions or experience of having violent confrontations with police, even when he's drunk. Now, they're claiming that when they eventually aroused him from his sleep, he woke up, got up, pulled the sheets back, at which point it revealed the knife in his hand. Now, if they were that in fear of their life that he pulled out this knife from the bed, why didn't they shoot him then? Because there is no explanation as to what they said or how they tried to disarm him or whether or not they identified themselves as officers being armed and prepared to shoot if he doesn't put down his weapon. But he's had time to put back the quilt, reveal the knife, get out of bed, get on his knees, and at what point, and let me just stop you there let me just stop myself there for a minute, because hey, I've just got a revelation. How does he lunge at them with the knife from his knees? If he was going to lunge at police officers with a knife, wouldn't he have done it when he was on his feet? Why would he get out of bed, reveal the knife, get on his knees, and then try and lunge at them with a knife? It doesn't make any sense.
None of it makes sense at all. Because if you were to see the room, it's like, first of all, you would have to know where the light was, because it was dark in there. In order to turn on the light, you would have to walk to the other side of the room and turn on the light manually. So this was all done in the dark. So how can they, like you said, it doesn't make sense. It does not make any kind of sense at all. Because even when I got the phone call and when they told me that my son was dead, I, for some reason, assumed it was like at a park, because last thing I remember, he took his youngest daughter to Balboa Park to the carousel. And I'm still trying to grasp it when I got the phone call. And then when I was talking to my sister-in-law, she's like, "Oh, they're taking the body." I'm like, "What do you mean they're taking the body?" Because all this time, I did not know that he was shot and killed, in the house, and I did not know it was the police until after, and I was like, you're right, it doesn't make any kind of sense, no sense at all,
Gina Thane also tells you to reach out to other families that have gone through similar things. They've got great resources. Protect Our Stolen Treasures. Yeah, try reaching out to Donna Hayes and Yolanda McNair. These are people that can point you in the right direction. They've got resources available to support women like you who have lost their loved ones to the unlawful killing by police officers. You need to really reach out to some of these groups and organizations that support and see if they can give you some advice as to how you can get around this. Maybe even they can approach your sister on your behalf. Because sometimes some people they're itching to do the right thing. They just don't know how to. And maybe or not she doesn't love you enough, or she to tell you the truth. But she just might tell somebody else. And all we want is the truth. If we get the truth out, then we can rattle the police with the truth and let them know that their alibi, their original reason and excuse for going in has been blown. They're going to have to come up with another story. And no, it's going to be hard. It's going to be harder once your sister changes her story. Well, she becomes unreliable. But no, now you can start picking at the story. You can start pulling it apart with the raw resources that are available to you through other groups, and maybe start to. I know they don't rattle easy, but they will rattle. But they will rattle if we are relentless. If we keep coming at them, if we don't give up, if we don't give in, and we are totally relentless and ruthless, they will eventually start to rumble.
That's God. I wish that could just happen sooner. I do know Yolanda. I befriended her not too long ago. I think she went to Washington with a few other moms. That's her, right? Correct?
Yes.
Yolanda McNair.
Yes,
Yes.
Yolanda McNair.
Yeah, because I did friend her, and then there's another one, Genevieve Weezar. I think she's from Anaheim. She lost her son to due to Anaheim police. Just like I don't know, like sometimes I
There
just
are
feel overwhelmed.
absolutely loads. Gilda Baker, you name them. I've got a plethora of them, a whole host of them. And if you go onto some of these groups, you meet many of these women in these chat rooms and groups that will be able to advise you and support you through this, because you don't have to do this alone, Elisa. You know.
Oh, I come to realize that when I found out, because usually you just, like I said, you don't expect this to happen to you. You just don't. All of a sudden you have a rude awakening, like, oh wow, did this? Like I said, to me, it still feels like yesterday, like it was yesterday, even though
How?
it's been 7 years. It's
Yeah.
like, and it makes me angry too because he wasn't able to see his children grow. His daughters are so beautiful and so talented, and because of them, they'll never know. They'll never know, just how great their father was. It's,
And how are his children now? What do they do?
Isabel is 10 and Jasmine is 15.
And
And I
so
mean,
so they're both in school, and what is their
yes.
knowledge and experience of their father and the way that he was taken out? How are they with it? What's their understanding of this all?
Well, they know, and then I'm left with a situation like, okay, do I tell them that all cops are evil? Do I make them, you know, because I don't want them to hate, but I try to tell them, like, good and bad and everything and everybody, and unfortunately we got the bad, so I'm left here also like, what, I can't teach them to hate, but I can tell them, don't trust them, when it comes to a point where, like, what can I tell them? I mean, especially the oldest
At
one, she
at
took
at
it.
this current time and in this current climate, as people of color, we cannot afford to trust police officers. We
Oh,
cannot
not at all. I mean,
we cannot
look what's
afford.
going on. This whole You're doing something, normal, and then they'll call, like those people at Starbucks, like that one lady in Sacramento that was mad because that one guy, or I think it was Oakland, was barbecuing. You're like, what the heck? Why are we regressing? You know what I mean? I just don't understand. There's so much ugliness in the world, and the ones that are supposed to be there to protect and serve, like, who are they protecting? Who are they serving? Just themselves, you know? It's I don't know. I just wish this would all end, and I know that's just wishful thinking, but I don't understand how we got to this point where you
Marilyn
think it's
says, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
You think it's okay to call the police because someone is black, or because someone is brown, or because someone is speaking Spanish. I mean, how did we get here? Yeah, I don't. I just this world is ass backwards. I'm
Do
sorry.
you know, you are one of the most humblest of those that I've interviewed, um, and you seem to lack anger, bitterness, and resentment. Hurt, yes, it's painful for you, I can tell, but I hear very little anger, bitterness, or resentment in you apart from what you feel for your sister. And my concern for you, Elisa, is that all of your anger is vented at your sister, and you have a right to be angry with your sister. She should have never called the police, but your sister was dependent on meth. She was a drug addict. Drug addicts do silly things. They make silly choices. But we expect our paid experienced law enforcement officers to do the right thing. And in that respect, they failed you, they failed her, and they definitely failed your son.
Yes, they did. And you know what is so crazy about this is like after like maybe like a month after this had happened, there was some incident around the corner. I'm sorry, around the corner from my house, and like the police were blocking it, right? But they weren't really blocking it where I couldn't go in. So I went into the street, and then this cop just started yelling at me like, "Hey, what are you doing? Why did you drive through there?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that it was blocked." And then he's like, "Do you have a license? Do you even have a license?" I go, "Yes, I do, sir. But unfortunately, I left it at my house." I go, "You know my house, don't you? 5030 Dawn Street. Remember my son, Mark Carrasco?" And his demeanor changed from being an angry little freaking cop to like, he just put his head down and he's like, "I'm so sorry. Go. Just go." I just know that his name is Mario and he's very well known around the community here. I mean, for even a cop to do that to me was like, you did something wrong. Your partner did something wrong because he was outside when this happened, and then my friend knew him, and she told me that she asked him, "Mario, were you one of the ones that went inside?" And he's like, "No," and I'm so glad that I didn't. It was just, I don't know. I will always remember that because his demeanor just totally changed from being a complete jerk to being apologetic. So, like, why are you apologizing? Do you know what I mean? Like, why was he? I mean, because he knows that his comrades were wrong.
Very much so.
And it was just, I was just surprised by how he responded. How he just put his head down like he was ashamed.
And the unfortunate thing is, even though some of these officers know that their colleagues have done wrong, they still don't have the courage to stand up and do the right thing. And Marilyn again makes 2 points. She says, if there are good cops who see the wrong in this, where are they? Their law states that you are deemed guilty by association, and so be it. They are guilty because they stand at the side of a killer. That's right, their colleague. She also says, without accountability, there can be no justice. Without justice, there can be no peace. We must join together and make change. Fight for justice by unification. United we stand, divided we fall. We have righteous indignation and the strength of right on our side. And Marilyn, I 100% agree with you on that. And here's the thing, Elisa. While you continue to be angry with your sister, the police, who are the ones who actually did the wrong, continue to get away with it.
That's off. That's just, that breaks my heart too. Because like, how many mothers have to go through this? I mean, you turn on the news and then you're surprised when you don't hear about a killing, and it doesn't help. The man in charge is. Sorry, I don't want to get political.
If you and your sister could find a way past this, you could be a formidable force in bringing these officers to book, because I'll tell you what, there is such a gaping hole in this case that anybody with common sense can see just how wrong this is. And yes, I know we've had many cases where it's evidently wrong. Now, again, I will reiterate, your sister lied. We know she lied. You know she lied. She knows she lied. She was under the influence of meths, drug addicted, right? Erratic, irrational, her head all over the place. But she wasn't the one that made the irrational, erratic call to kill an innocent, unarmed individual and then put a piece of weapon there, basically falsifying evidence in order to justify a kill. The police did that all on their own. And I doubt if they asked her permission. I doubt if they asked her to help. I doubt even if they asked her where the knives were. Because, as you have already said, she stayed outside.
Mm-hmm. She let him in, and then as soon as she let him in, she went outside. And then a couple of minutes later, there was bang, 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 like 9 times.
And these officers have done this type of thing before. Widner, 11 years ago, 17 times.
That
Michael
is just
Allen
overkill.
Thayer
Like,
was shot. Not one shot was fired back from him because he only had a replica. At what point do we eliminate "I was in fear of my life" as a justifiable cause to absolutely annihilate, massacre, because that's what you would call it, an absolute slaughtered massacre. 17 bullets to take out one individual. And unless we are standing together with those that can help us get the truth out there, these are the type of officers that continue to get away with these unlawful killings. You need your sister on board by whichever means necessary. You need to find a way to communicate with her and get her on side, because her testifying that he never made the threats in reality, and yes, she was angry with him. She may well be able to confirm that there was a bit of a toing and throwing between them. But if she would be honest enough to verify that he was not in possession of a knife, then that blows their version right out of the water. You need your sister on side, Elisa.
you've given me a lot to think about, that's for sure. I mean, but like, yeah, like I said, I'll do anything for my son.
I suppose you will.
I'm twice, and I mean,
So how are your children managing with all of this now? His children?
well, they're doing better. At one time, we had to take Jasmine, the oldest one, near therapy because I found out she was cutting herself. That's the thing now. I guess they like to cut themselves, and no, I don't know. We're not. No, we're not having it.
So are you saying one of his children is self-harming? That's what we
I'm
call
sorry,
it.
what?
We over here in the UK we call it self-harming.
Yes, she was doing that. We got her first. We got her like a therapist, but she wasn't really like helping. I guess she would just have her color and whatever. But then after a while, she said that she was contemplating suicide, and I was like, oh no, this is not going to happen. So like I said, we got her another therapist, and thank God she a couple of years later she stopped cutting herself. She stopped hurting herself, and she's doing a lot better now, way better than when she was at first.
And I suppose that these are all the after effects of not having her father in her life, right?
Yes, and then she felt like everyone she like around her would leave her because like her mom, she didn't live with her mom, she lived with us. And then after her dad passed away, her mom took her to live with her in Ensenada. But the thing was, Jasmine doesn't speak Spanish, and then she felt like like I abandoned her, but I didn't. It was like you need your mom, you need to go with your mom because you were here because of your dad. Your dad is no longer here. And I mean, that really upset me too, because I was already used to her. She was like me. We basically took care of her, like the whole from birth till this happened. Me and Mark did, because the mom was in Ensenada. I'm not saying she was a bad mom, but she had 2 other kids, and her husband unfortunately could not come over here to the United States. So Jasmine just thought that everyone was leaving her, and then she finally got a therapist that she loved her. They connected so well, and then she left too. She had to go to Las Vegas, so she was just like, everyone around me is just leaving. But she's doing better now. It took a while. I mean, she gave me a scare there because one time she drank bleach. I'm like, oh my goodness gracious! It's like God must think I'm the strongest woman in the world because he's throwing all this stuff at me. But I'm still standing. I'm not. What can I do? Sometimes I wish I could just be stay in a fetus position in my room and not face reality. But what would that gain? Not a damn thing. And I don't think my son would like that either. So it's just been hard. Like I said, it's until it happens to you, then you can fully understand. Like it's so much.
I get that.
It's for them to just like nothing. Like they don't know what they took. They don't know what they destroyed. They don't care. They don't care. Because they get to go home, to their families. and they just they just leave a big mess behind without they don't care. I don't understand how that. I just don't get it.
It's very true, and then they leave families to pick up the pieces,
Yeah,
like you and yours have obviously had to do in such a painful way.
it was. I mean, oh my gosh. Like I said, I never thought this would ever happen to me. Never. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I get that.
And I
Now,
remember also this one girl. When I don't know, she told me, she's like, "This is when you should be angry at God." I'm like, "Why would I be angry at God? God did not do this. Why? Why would you say something stupid like that to me? That was dumb. You know what I mean? It's like it's not God's fault. But like I said earlier, I do not like the way he was taken from me because it makes no sense. I mean, if he was sick and he had cancer, okay, I could understand that. If he was drunk and was driving, I could understand that. If he was being obnoxious around like a bunch of other guys and they beat the heck out of him, that makes sense to me. But this, no, this doesn't make sense because this is not the life that he lived. Like you said, if he was a gangster and all that, okay, that would make sense. But he wasn't like that. I mean, I wish you could have seen. I was so overwhelmed at his service because it was at a school auditorium, elementary school, and it was like standing room only. There was like no, it was so many people and so many races. It's like he was he was a great guy he was. Everyone around him and his little smile with all the girls always following him around ever since he was a little kid. He didn't deserve this. This is not how he should have left me. He should have been taken from me, not this way. It just
I can
my,
hear.
my I'll never be the same. I mean, I always say, what keeps me going is my sense of humor. If I didn't have that and my granddaughters, I would be a royal mess. Because what can you do? You can't shut down after that. You have to keep on living, knowing that I'll never see Mark again. I'll never see my little booty.
Yeah, I can hear the pain.
I'm
It's
sorry.
it's okay. It's etched in your heart,
It's
and I think we
like
can.
I wish I could wake up from this nightmare. Now, I don't care what anyone says. Like they killed him on a Saturday, and I'll never forget. Like the following Thursday, I finally got to sleep, and then I woke up because I could feel him, I could smell him, and he just like hugged me and said, "Take care of my daughters." But I believe I was like, I don't know. I did feel him, and I did smell him, and I did feel him. I'm hugging him, and he's hugging me, and then I woke up. But he said in my ear, like, "Take care of my daughters." And I just remember waking up like, what in the hell was that? And I was bawling. I don't know. A lot of people think, no, he said it was just a dream. No, I smelt him and I felt him. And so that's what I'm trying to do. Just, take care of his daughters. That's what he would want.
And it sounds, Elisa, like you're doing an absolutely amazing job. Marilyn once again says that you're right about the damage it does to the victims' families. Most of the children end up in therapy. In adults, it's called PTSD. What do you call it when it's a child? When a child tries to hang himself because his dad was killed. And there are many mothers who've got some more frightening stories like that, just as you have with Mark's daughter who was self-harming, cutting herself, etc. There are many mothers with very similar stories, frightening stories, horrendous stories of children who are traumatized by the things that have happened to their father at the hands of a law enforcement officer whose role and service is supposed to protect and serve the community. But instead it's stop and kill. Stop and kill.
No question. That's nothing. Just shoot to kill.
Stop and kill.
It just infuriates me. Like they all get away with it.
They do.
All just get away with it.
Well, there we go. I got to be honest with you. And like you, I wondered whether we was going to be able to handle the 2-hour show. But Elisa, I'll be pleased to let you know that we've come to that point where we're almost 2 hours up. And
Oh, wow.
it's been amazing having you on this show. Your honesty, your sincerity, your emotions has been a welcomed relief, and your openness and your willingness to reveal your humility has been a blessing on this show. And I just want to thank you for sharing the story of your son with Issues Today on World Jam Global Radio. And just invite you to share with the audience if there are any sites or links or websites or anywhere where they can go to offer support or encouragement to support you in your efforts in raising Mark's daughters, your grandchildren, and try to keep his memory alive and seeking justice against those officers that unlawfully took his life. If there's anything that you want to say right now is the time to do so.
Well, I want to thank you foremost for allowing me to tell his story. And I mean, I'm on Facebook. If they can look me up under Elisa Rod. I do like I said, I do know Yolanda McNair. Well, I don't know her, but I through Facebook. And like I said, I'm also with the National Unity Against Police Brutality. Just reading other stories helps me a little, knowing that I'm not the only one out there. But I mean, we understand the pain. We understand the anger. I just want to thank you so much for letting me tell Mark's story.
That's not a problem. Donna Chizezi says, join Protect Our Stolen Treasures, which is one of the groups I told you about earlier on, and that she will then add you to the Mothers of Justice message group. She says, we support each other. She knows Yolanda. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, she's got that. Thank you very much for that, Donna. And I just want to thank you again, Elisa, for being so honest, open and emotional with us and sharing the story of your son, allowing us to tell it like it should have been told all those years ago. And if there's anything else that we can do to support you, to support your plight in seeking justice, don't hesitate. As far as I'm concerned, you are a friend. Don't just disappear. We do these shows every week. There are mothers just like you crying out for help and support. And the least that we can do in our moment of need and our point of crisis is to support one another.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And you have a blessed evening.
Thank you very much. And we will speak again real soon.
Okay. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, Elisa. We're out of here. I want to just give a thank you to our audience as well. Donna Chizezi, Marilyn, Gina Thane, and all the others that have contributed, Dana Lynn, Scarzoni, all the others that have contributed comments and questions and support and encouragement to this story brought to us by Elisa Rodriguez, who is defending or discussing the unlawful killing of her son, Mark Carrasco, in 2011, killed unlawfully by cops. And that's it. We're out of here.
1, 2, 3, swing it.
Do you have an old sound tape or your favorite cassette tape that you want converted to CD or MP3 format? Do you need a demo CD, radio ad, a DJ, or even a sound system for your wedding, birthday, or special occasion? Then why not get in contact with KTR Records on 07931 152 448, or check out our website on www.ktrrecords.com. We have been in business since 2004 and also undertake community projects. So for your remixes, doublets and all your sound editing needs, why not contact KTR Records, official sponsor of World Jam Global Radio. KTR Records, coming your way. Imperial Lounge presents an icon.
Reggae dancehall by the beach. To be held at Imperial Lounge, 2 to 14 High Street, Margate Seafront, Kent, CT9 180. To be heard on the first Saturday of each month. Your host DJ Matt. Also rotating DJs, Ruddy Boone, DJ Happy,
and Younger General.
Doors open 8 p.m. till late. Free entry all night. Music policy, reggae, dancehall, and a touch of soul. On the first Saturday of each month.
Reggae dancehall by the beach.
At the Imperial Lounge Margate. Do remember you can also get VIP and shisha booking. More info on the World Jam Global website. That's www.worldjamglobal.com. Also www.imperialloungemargate.co.uk.
See you there.
It's the right thing you doing. Rebellious like
Sunday, May 27, 2018, GDS Entertainment proudly presents
Grooving on the Hudson.
That's right, Grooving on the Hudson. Memorial Weekend celebration. Music played by Road International. Selector Oxtail alongside King Shiloh International. All aboard the elegant Paddle Wheel Queens, One World's Fair Marina. Boarding 6 p.m. sharp from Flushing, Queens, certified Shea Stadium. And Miss Marina will be selling 7 p.m. sharp. Also,
For tickets, People's Choice Furniture, Bronx, New York. Doors Restaurant, Queens, New York. G's Restaurant, Queens, New York.
Also,
WorldGymGlobal.com.
Also, complimentary dinner prize and surprises.
Come party with us.
Let's just take it slow. Sailing on a summer breeze.
World Jam Global Radio. This is clarity.